Hey, also, how do we walk through this healing journey and really truly understand healed versus healing versus unhealed, understanding what it looks like externally, but also understanding what it looks like internally? And I hear people talk a lot about being healed. And the thing about healing is that it's a continuous journey for an individual person, right? And you have these different pieces of you, these different core woundings, these different versions of you, if you will, the 2-year-old version who maybe got hurt, or the 7-year-old version who maybe got hurt, or the teenage version, or the young adult. And so each part of those pieces need to be healed. And so you might have uncovered that young adult wound and you've healed that thing, but there's still these other wounds that are still needing to be unearthed, needing to be made self-aware of, etc. And so if you're on a healing journey and you're wondering why I've done the work, but I don't feel healed, it's because this healing thing is pulling back layers upon layers upon layers. And I know you've heard the onion analogy, and if you haven't, here it is. Every time you pull back a layer, another layer is exposed until you get to that true core of what is ailing you. And so if you're on this journey and you've been on it for quite some time and you're wondering, what is wrong with me because I've been here for a really long time and I don't feel healed, there are two things that potentially could be happening. The healing that you're doing isn't really working for you, and or you've healed the outermost wound, but you haven't gotten into those other wounds. And if that's you, guess what? It's all of us. Because once we heal one thing, once we unearth that thing and that thing feels like we have it down, we know how to respond to it, we know how to speak to that inner wound and that inner child that the wound was caused at that age, etc. It also may unearth another wound, or it may even cause another wound. Maybe it's something that you ignored before. And so D'Angelo Taylor has this really great quote that I saw posted, and I want to read it to you, but I want to shift the perspective a little bit because it's a great quote, and I think we can look at it from a different vantage point and use it to help us along this healing journey so we don't feel like I'm never going to be healed. And so it says, it's really the healed versus the unhealed. Let me start that over. It's really the healed versus the healing versus the unhealed out here. The healed move with intention. They respond instead of react. They've done the work. The healing are in process, growing, unlearning, getting it right sometimes, and slipping on others. And then the unhealed lead from their wounds, project, and mistake chaos for connection. The truth is, we're all on this spectrum somewhere. Self-awareness is the difference, accountability is the bridge, and emotional maturity is the goal. So I'm going to unpack that into two pieces. Those last three sentences we'll do in a second, but that first part is really something I want you to understand. There is this continuum. There's this continuum that is completely unhealed, haven't even started the journey. And then there's the healing part where you're in this process. And then there's the healed. But I don't ever believe that we truly get to a space where everything is healed. Because I think that if we create that false sense of reality in our brains, we're always going to try to be chasing this place where we just feel constant peace. And that doesn't exist unless your peace comes from God. Because you're not going to always feel internally peaceful, and you're always going to feel like you're not doing enough or you're missing the mark if you think that healed is your end goal. And the reason I say that is because there are people who are completely unhealed. But I don't think there are people who are completely healed of all of the wounding that's in them, because we get hurt every single day. And though we may respond to one thing with emotional maturity because we've dealt with that thing, there may be something else that we respond to very differently because we haven't healed that thing. So I believe the continuum exists within us based on the wounds that we have. So there may be that core wound of not feeling like enough, and you've done the work and you've healed that thing. And so you can operate from a space of emotional maturity when it comes to that thing. But don't feel like something is wrong with you when you are able to do it with that, but you aren't able to do it when you feel like you've been let down by people and you can't ask for help because people have let you down your entire life. Because you can still heal the wound of not feeling like you're enough by speaking to that and building your confidence in that area, but also feel like you can't ask people for help because though you feel like you're enough, you still don't feel like people outside of you are enough because you've been let down so many times. And this unhealing portion of you doesn't mean that this healed portion of you doesn't exist. It just means that all of your wounds are on this continuum. And sometimes that healed wound slips back into the healing process because something triggers it to the extent it wished you have to do the work over again. And so I don't ever want you to feel like you're not doing it right or something is wrong with you because you haven't fully healed yet. Because the reality is there are going to be parts of us that we can't heal ourselves. That's the beauty of having the God we serve, because he can come in and heal those things, and he can come in and do those instantaneous change from one thing to another. But there are things inside of us, because we're human, that are going to be healed, and then in the process of healing, and then there are going to be things that are unhealed that we unearth, and then we try to heal them, and then maybe they get to the healed version. And so this continuum exists inside of us in all of the woundings that we've experienced. And so we are moving in and out of that continuum. There are times where our unhealed version shows up and we project our wounds onto other people and we're not able to communicate and we're operating from that space, and maybe we realize that that unhealed version shows up. So we go to the healing version on the continuum and we try to unlearn those behaviors and we try to get it right. But then when we slip back into the spaces, we have to realize that that healing needs some more attention in that space. And that's okay, because we're human and that's what's happening to us. And so the second part of this is that self-awareness is absolutely the difference between completely being unhealed and being on this healing journey. But being self-aware isn't enough to be healed. It is enough to recognize the thing. A lot of unhealed people are walking around here not even recognizing that they have parts that need to be healed in the first place. And once you recognize it, it does put that piece of you on the continuum to the healing journey. And then remaining accountable to yourself is absolutely the bridge between unhealed to healed, because that is what the healing journey is about. It's about being accountable for the way that you're responding, the way that you're moving in the world, and allowing your awareness of the issue to help you work through your behavior and the way that you're responding. Once your emotions catch up to what you know to be true through your self-awareness and to what you've changed in behavior through your accountability, that's when your emotional maturity is built. And yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to be emotionally mature when it comes to all of our woundings. But sometimes you can be really emotionally mature when it comes to something that you can control. Like, I'm not going to yell because I don't think that that's the correct response to this, and that's what my parents did to me, and I don't want my children to experience that, so I'm going to find another way to express my emotions. And also, this person let me down and that hurts really bad, and I don't know how to respond from a place of emotional maturity in this, because I'm still trying to figure out what part of this I'm accountable for and what part of this I need to give forgiveness for. And so that means that we're constantly on this continuum. When we unearth the thing that's still ailing us, that thing is unhealed. Once we move it, after we're self-aware, once we move it to the space where we're healing it, then we can work through all of those accountability pieces and move to a space of emotional maturity where we are healed in that area. But that might also unearth something else that isn't healed. And so I don't want that to cause you to feel frustrated, because it can be frustrating to feel like my end game is to be healed, but I keep having to go back and forth because there's all these woundings that I didn't know I had. Your end game is not fully healed, because that is an unattainable goal. There are so many things that we deal with on a daily basis that are going to trigger us and may not allow us to respond in that place. Doing the work doesn't necessarily equate to being healed, because you may spend a really long time in that healing process for that thing. I mean, you've been dealing with the unhealed version of that thing for decades. And being emotionally mature around the thing is the goal. It is the goal. Not being fully healed, because that is you trying to reach something, which causes the frustration of, I can never reach this thing because the goalpost keeps moving, because I keep unearthing deeper and deeper and deeper things. And that's exactly what healing does. So what if we shifted our perspective from healed is the goal to healing the parts of me so that I can be emotionally mature about those pieces and have accountability and self-awareness? That's the goal. Being able to understand, interpret your behaviors, change your behaviors, and emotionally respond to them in a different way is the goal. And that might not always be a fully healed version of that specific trauma or wounding. But you can always be healing and still be successful. Because if you tell yourself that only when I'm healed am I successful, then you're always going to feel like you're missing the mark. But if you tell yourself success looks like taking accountability, being self-aware, and building emotional maturity in that thing, then you have a reason to unearth the other wounds. What'll happen is if healed is your goal, when you heal that one wound, then you'll stop. Because you'll tell yourself I'm healed, but then there's all these other things that you're contending with. And so today I encourage you, give yourself a break. Give yourself some grace. Healing ain't easy, people. It's really not. It's a difficult journey, and you being on it and just taking accountability and being self-aware is something that you should give yourself some kudos for. And the grace to understand that falling and slipping and moving back and forth is part of the process of being human. And it's okay to be there. You don't have to be fully healed to be somebody who deserves to walk in this world and draw breath and take up space. You moving every single day to a version of yourself that is more healed than you were yesterday is something that you should be celebrating. If you haven't done that, I'm giving you permission today, because sometimes it just takes one person to give you permission to celebrate your journey thus far. To celebrate that you're going to unearth other things and have to heal those too, but to also accept that that's part of the process and not feel downtrodden or heavy, because that is part of the process. If this video resonated with you, please go to my page, follow them, all my socials, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, etc. But share this video with someone, because you know that knowledge gained and kept to yourself is selfish, but knowledge shared with the world could just be the catalyst they need to break free from the bondage that they're in. And we want people to walk around in freedom today, not in bondage. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.